दिक्कत नहीं है, क्योंकि सरकारी नौकरी के लिए बहुत सारे लड़के कहते हैं कि हमको सरकारी नौकरी चाहिए।
नहीं,
आपके साथ ऐसा नहीं
है।
ओके। और बाकी कोई और इशू, महिला सुरक्षा, आप लोग सिक्योर फील करती हैं खुद से स्कूटी चलाती हैं तो?
हाँ बिल्कुल,
सिक्योरिटी
हाँ।
वो है, आप भी सिक्योर
हाँ,
फील
हाँ,
करती हैं?
बिल्कुल।
ओके। आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे मैडम, महंगाई के बारे में, गैस सिलेंडर के दाम के बारे में?
क्या कहेंगे मैडम, हमें तो आप गैस दिया ही नहीं है। मोदी सरकार दूंगा करके कह लिया, धर के फोटो खिंचा लिया, हमें दिया ही नहीं है। पंचायत में बुला के फोटो खिंचा लिया, मकान के नाम भी आया, फिर भी इस मकान के हमको पैसा नहीं मिल रहा है। बार बार घुमाते, क्या करें, हम परेशान हैं, हम ओकरे वजह से हमारा तबीयत खराब हो रहा है।
तो जब वोट देंगी तो ये सब सोच के वोट देंगी?
हाँ, सोच के वोट देंगे ना, हमें नहीं देता, हम क्यों देंगे उसे वोट।
History has shown that the road to Raipur often goes through Bastar. Even in the last assembly election, the clean sweep in Bastar's 12th seat had a huge role to play in the landslide victory that Bhupesh Baghel registered in the Chhattisgarh assembly. This assembly elections, BJP is trying to hard sell its dream of Naxal-free, secure Chhattisgarh to woo the tribals. Bhupesh Baghel, on his part, is promising them more welfare measures, more direct benefit transfers. Who will really manage to woo them finally will be known on 3rd of December. But it's clear to both sides that if Bastar and Chhattisgarh comes out to vote without fear or favor, that'll be the biggest victory. One of the VIP constituencies going to polls this time is Rajnandgaon, the home turf of Raman Singh. Even though as an MLA he has chosen Kavardha, the people of this area think that R in Rajnandgaon actually stands for Dr. Raman. So what are the issues in this VIP constituency? What are the people thinking? How much development has really happened in the 15 years that Dr. Raman Singh was in power? And did Rajnandgaon suffer after Bhupesh Baghel took the Chief Minister's chair? Let's speak to people in this constituency. What's the mood like in Raman Singh's constituency in Rajnandgaon market? A group of people here with us. कैसा है माहौल है, क्या मुद्दा है?
मैडम, डॉक्टर साहब जो है ना, वो तो विधायक ही हैं और मुख्यमंत्री पूर्व थे, और आगे अगर पार्टी आ जाती है तो निश्चित रूप से मुख्यमंत्री बनेंगे। लेकिन राजनांदगांव का जो विकास कार्य जो हुआ है ना, डॉक्टर जी को बिल्कुल सब स्मरण करते हैं, याद करते हैं। तो इस हिसाब से उनका बेस तो बना हुआ है। और इनके अगेंस्ट में जैसा गिरीश देवांगन जी आ गए कांग्रेस से, है ना, हालांकि जैसा भी है उनका भी शासन सत्ता है उनका, लेकिन उनका भी ठीक है, लेकिन उनको मेहनत करना पड़ेगा मैडम, क्योंकि कार्यकर्ताओं से और सभी समाज वालों से, मुख्य लोगों से मिलना बहुत जरूरी है और रूबरू मिलना जरूरी है मैडम, तभी उनका थोड़ा सा लेवल आएंगे मैडम।
अच्छा ये बताइए, ये चुनाव भूपेश बघेल बनाम रमन सिंह है या भूपेश बघेल बनाम नरेंद्र मोदी है?
Good evening, this is Brass Tax. I'm Zaka Jacob. The cash for query saga involving the TMC MP Mahua Moitra got a fresh twist today. The lawyer who initially raised his finger at Mahua today testified before the Parliamentary Ethics Committee. In fact, he gave details of how Mahua Moitra had allegedly shared her MP login credentials with Darshan Hiranandani, who's a scion of a famous industrial house, where often Darshan Hiranandani used to ask parliamentary questions on behalf of Mahua Moitra. Mahua, of course, has dismissed these claims. She says that all of this is being done at the behest of the BJP, who is targeting her because she's been asking tough questions of the government on the Adani matter. But the moot point is this, and she's issued numerous statements in the last few weeks since this controversy came to light. She's now been summoned by the Ethics Committee to appear before it on the 31st of August, that's next week. But the moot point is this. In her numerous statements, Mahua Moitra has not, one, clarified on whether she gave her MP login credentials to Darshan Hiranandani or anyone else for filing questions on her behalf. Two, did she compromise the faith of the people who voted her to Parliament? Because that is a sacred trust between her voters, her electors and her, that she represents them and will raise their concerns and address their questions. And most importantly, and this is what a criminal inquiry will find out, if at all there was a quid pro quo for the same. That is, was there a financial or some kind of monetary reward that was given to her for someone else placing questions on her behalf? But first, the story of what happened today.
I can only say that it was very pleasant. Everybody was very cordial. Questions were put to me as is normal in any committee hearing, and I have answered those questions.
सभी ने कॉर्डियल सवाल पूछे और मुझसे ज़्यादा जो एथिक्स कमेटी चिंतित है, मुझसे जो भी पूछा गया मैंने दे दिया।
विषय की गंभीरता को देखते हुए कमेटी ने तय किया है कि महुआ मित्रा को 31 तारीख को बुलाया जा रहा है। वो आए और अपने बचाव में अपने पक्ष में जो कहना तो कहें। साथ ही साथ कमेटी ने भी निर्णय लिया है, इसमें IT मंत्रालय और गृह मंत्रालय को चिट्ठी भेज के उनका विवरण भी उपलब्ध कराने का निर्देश कमेटी के द्वारा दिया गया है।
All right, before we go to our big debate on brass tacks, we're getting a breaking news here on the show. The Election Commission of India has now issued a notice to Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, allegedly for a false statement that she made regarding Prime Minister Modi in Dahra. Remember, Dahra is in Rajasthan. It is the home district of Sachin Pilot, and Priyanka Gandhi was there campaigning a few days ago, where she allegedly made a false statement regarding Prime Minister Modi, for which she's now been served a notice by the Election Commission of India. Let me go across to Aman Sharma, our political editor, who's joining us with more on this. Do we know what exactly she said, and what is it that the Election Commission of India is seeking to hear from her on this alleged false statement on the Prime Minister?
Zaka, Priyanka was in Dahra doing a public meeting on the 20th of October earlier this month, where she mentioned that about the Prime Minister, that the Prime Minister, she had heard, she quoted from TV reports that the Prime Minister had gone to Dev Narayan Mandir a few months back, and she said that she believes that the Prime Minister donated only rupees 21 in the temple. Envelope was dropped by the PM into the donation box, and when that donation box opened 6 months later, only rupees 21 was found. That is what Priyanka claimed in her statement at the Dahra rally. This was immediately objected to by the BJP, terming it as a false statement. In fact, the leader of the opposition in Rajasthan, Mr. Rajendra Rathod, led a delegation to the Election Commission of India on 21st October itself, and on 25th, BJP gave an official representation to the ECI, saying that this is a false statement. It is aimed at hurting the religious beliefs. So that is the complaint which was made. Now the ECI, in its notice to Priyanka Gandhi, is now clearly saying that it has been alleged that you have invoked the personal religious devotion of the Prime Minister. And further, the ECI says it is averred that a relation between an individual and a deity cannot be a matter of public scrutiny, and your statement diminishes the devotee, this is the PM, in the general estimation of the public. So this is a very important statement given out by the EC, and now EC has issued her a notice telling her to issue an explanation on the show cause notice by the 30th of October on why appropriate action should not be taken against her for a violation of model code of conduct. And this issue is going to blow up now in Rajasthan, because the BJP had always been targeting Priyanka, and Priyanka Zaka is so far the star campaigner of the Congress in Rajasthan. Rahul Gandhi has still not come here, but Priyanka Gandhi has already held 3 big rallies in Rajasthan.
So what may this appropriate action be? Explain for our viewers what the next steps are. Obviously, they've sought a response from her. I'm sure she or her lawyers will file that response by the Election Commission's date. And if they're not convinced with that response, what are the provisions of the model code? What is it that the Election Commission can do against Priyanka Gandhi?
Well, in the least case, Zaka, they can issue her a warning. They can issue her a censure, asking her to be more careful in the future. In a worst case, her campaigning could also be limited. You know, ECI has done this in the past with some campaigners, that their campaigning was put on hold for a couple of days, for 3 days, or their campaign was ceased for a particular point of time as a punishment. But in most cases, ECI issues a censure or a warning to the candidate to the campaigner to be more careful in future and not make such statements which hurt the religious sentiments of people.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Aman Sharma, many thanks for joining us at the top of Brass Tacks. So the Election Commission of India has now issued a notice to Priyanka Gandhi and she has to submit a response by early next week. Let's now go back to our big topic that we're focusing on Brass Tacks tonight, an overview of what exactly happened today at the ethics panel meeting. This is the inside scoop. The advocate in question, Anant Dehadrai, who made these allegations in the first place, he was cross-examined by the entire panel, the ethics panel of the parliament. Dehadrai gave his statement for about 20 minutes. He outlined what he has already shared in the public domain in the letter that he wrote to Nishikant Dubey. Subsequently, after Dehadrai, it was BJP MP Nishikant Dubey who recorded his statement. Nishikant Dubey told the ethics panel that the papers that were produced by him, the papers that he managed to get from Anant Dehadrai, those papers do not lie. There was apparently a heated exchange that happened between some BJP members of the ethics panel and the BSP member of parliament, Danish Ali. Danish Ali wanted to relieve Mahua of all the charges that she's accused of. The committee, after having gone through the statements of both Dehadrai and Nishikant Dubey, has said that further probe needs to be done. They have summoned Mahua Moitra for the 31st of October, that is next week, where she will have to come and testify in the ethics panel. She will have to give her statement, her version of what the story is. Meanwhile, let's listen in to what these people, both Mr. Dehadrai, the lawyer, and what Nishikant Dubey, the MP, had to say after their testimony today before the ethics panel.
देखते हुए कमेटी ने तय किया है कि महुआ मित्रा को 31 तारीख को बुलाया जा रहा है। वो आए और अपने बचाव में, अपने पक्ष में जो कहना कहें। साथ ही साथ कमेटी ने भी निर्णय लिया है, इसमें IT मंत्रालय और गृह मंत्रालय को चिट्ठी भेज के उनका विवरण भी उपलब्ध कराने का निर्देश कमेटी के द्वारा दिया गया है।
कुछ नहीं कहना चाहेंगे। जो भी मेरे से पूछा गया था वो मैंने सच कमेटी के सामने मैंने पेश कर दिया। उसके अतिरिक्त मैं और कुछ नहीं कहना चाहता।
जो कुछ भी मुझे कहना था इस बारे में, अभी असली विषय क्या है जी, कि जो सांसद के ऊपर आरोप लगे उसके लिए एथिक्स कमेटी बात कर रही है। अभी विषय ये है कि वो जो पॉइंट है वो हम सही उनके ऊपर चार्ज लगा रहे हैं या गलत चार्ज लगा रहे हैं, ये एथिक्स कमेटी तय करेगा। सभी ने नॉर्मल क्वेश्चन थे, क्वेश्चन शेयर नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि उसके एक नियम है, लेकिन मैं ये कह सकता हूं कि सभी सांसद चिंतित हैं।
All right, so let's bring you up to speed with what is it that the Parliamentary Ethics Committee can do? What powers does this committee have? Now, if they do suspect that there was an element of criminality involved, they could recommend an external probe by an investigating agency, the CBI or any police force or even the Enforcement Directorate if there is a case made out for money laundering. Also, they could look into the breach of national security. Remember, the concern here is that the login of the Member of Parliament in question, Mahua Moitra, was accessed from outside India's borders. It was accessed from Dubai, allegedly, and whether there were financial crimes involved. Now, clearly, a group of parliamentary members are not equipped to investigate financial crimes. This will have to be referred to an investigating agency. What it can do is to make a recommendation to scrap her status as Member of Parliament. That will, of course, have to be forwarded to the Speaker's office. The Speaker will have to put it for a vote in the House. And if a majority of the House votes in favor of suspending her, then they can suspend her as Member of Parliament. Also, if the panel is convinced by the evidence that's been submitted so far, by the statements by the various players, then it can ask for temporary suspension pending investigation, and then subsequently, depending on what the conclusion of that investigation is, either that suspension can be made permanent or that suspension can be revoked if indeed she gets a clean sheet. And that brings us to the third point, which is that if the committee is convinced that Mahua Moitra did not commit any breach of ethics or any breach of trust, or if the evidence against her is insufficient, then they can give her a clean sheet. Now, that brings us to the question. There are two parts to this. One, did she violate her oath as Member of Parliament by sharing her login credentials with third parties? Was that a breach of ethics, a breach of trust? That is one part of the story. The other part of the story is, was there a quid pro quo? Was there a criminal element involved here? Did she get financial favors in lieu of selling out questions, as it were? Now, the lawyer who made these claims first, which is Anant Dehadrai, who in fact testified today before the ethics panel, he is the estranged partner of Mahua Moitra. So he is an interested party here, and clearly there is an axe to grind, no doubt about it. But Dehadrai brought this to light first a few weeks ago when he wrote to the BJP Member of Parliament Nishikant Dubey, where he alleged that there was this massive cash for queries scandal going on. He claimed in that letter that Moitra received gifts and financial rewards for posing questions as a Member of Parliament, and someone else was writing those questions on her behalf. A letter to the CBI was also shot off by this lawyer, alleging that there was corruption and money laundering in lieu of questions being asked in Parliament. He also submitted a copy of the complaint to the Lok Sabha Speaker. He claims that there was a bid subsequent to him going public with all of these allegations, that there was a bid by Mahua Moitra to coerce him to withdraw his complaint. Now, Nishikant Dubey, the MP in question, he's had frequent run-ins in Parliament with Mahua Moitra as well as other members of the opposition. He has said, and he testified today, after which he spoke and he said that the truth must come out to safeguard the integrity of Parliament. He tweeted this, and this is part of our Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand's tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
So this is what the BJP MP said, and I quote, that the question is about the dignity of Parliament, the security of India, and the propriety and corruption and criminality of the MP. Now, the answer has to be given whether the NIC mail was opened in Dubai or not, if questions were asked in exchange for money or not, who bore the expenses of traveling abroad, have you ever taken permission from the Lok Sabha Speaker or the Ministry of External Affairs to go abroad or not? End of tweet. Now, this case continues to pose some rather big questions, A, of Mahua Moitra, no doubt, but also of the parliamentary system where you have MPs who have the sacred job of representing their constituents and asking questions on behalf of their constituents and raising concerns on behalf of their constituents. So question number one. Ms. Moitra has put out numerous public statements in the last 2 weeks since these allegations became public, but nowhere in those public statements, in those tweets of hers, has she categorically denied providing her login credentials to Darshan Hiranandani or any other third party to log on questions on her behalf. Number two, did the Dubai-based Darshan Hiranandani use Mahua Moitra's parliamentary login from places abroad, from places outside of India's borders? Number three, do these charges warrant a probe into breach of national security? Remember, these are IP addresses that are outside of India, that are based on servers that are outside of India, and parliamentary questions are put on a safe and secure website. Was there a breach of national security credentials if these login credentials were used outside of India's borders? Mr. Hiranandani says that he put all this information in an affidavit which was signed in the presence of the Consul General of India in Dubai, and this becomes a sworn document if this matter goes to court. Does that necessarily blunt the charge that Mahua Moitra has laid that this entire thing is orchestrated by the BJP because she's been going at the government for the Adani matter? And finally, and this is perhaps the most important political question as far as Mahua Moitra's future is concerned, why has her party, the Trinamool Congress, not come out and defended Moitra in the last 2 weeks since this controversy became so public? So let's get to our big debate. Can TMC MP Mahua Moitra blunt the charges against her? That is our debate topic tonight.
Hello, Moto.
All right, so let me go across to our guest, Priyanka Tibrewal, is spokesperson of the BJP. Anirban Banerjee is joining us. He's a political analyst, pro-TMC sympathizer, and will be defending Mahua Moitra tonight. Nalan Mehta, author and columnist, joining us, and Sanjeev Srivastava, senior journalist, also joining us on the broadcast this evening. Mr. Banerjee, you know, it's been 2 weeks, and the first question that I raised, why has Ms. Moitra not come out and categorically said that no, there's been no compromise of her login credentials, that she's not shared her login credentials with anyone other than her staff? That is the moot point in this entire thing, which she so far at least has not explicitly come out and denied.
I think, Zaka, there are two ways of stating a statement. One is a very straightforward, blunt kind of a statement, like you were saying that I didn't do it or this did not happen. And there's another way where there's a hint of sarcasm. I think that cuts much deeper than a straight, blunt statement. And that is something Madam Moitra is quite renowned for. That element of sarcasm has been there in her numerous tweets after these allegations have come to surface. You can read through her tweets and you can see that she is not even concerned about these allegations being proved later in the ethics committee or even in a court of law. She is quite enjoying herself in Durga Puja. That is what her tweet said, and she has always welcomed the ethics committee investigation.
No, but Mr. Banerjee, if I come and accuse you of something, right? Either you come out and say that, look, these charges are baseless because, you know, I was here on such and such a date, or my login credentials were not violated. You put out the information which clearly shows that the accusation that I am making against you is baseless. Ms. Moitra has not done that. Now you can say it's Ms. Moitra's word against against Darshan Hiranandani's, but the point is, it's very easy to find out if her login credentials were violated, and the NIC, I'm given to understand, will submit a report very soon on whether her login was used in Dubai and other places at times when she was not in those places.
You're right, exactly. Therefore, she has very categorically maintained that I'll be answering before the ethics committee. She has not answered the questions of the media, and she has every right to do so. And if that not answering in front of the media is a crime in today's India, then just tell me, Honorable Prime Minister, how many open press conferences has he conducted? How many questions has he answered?
Banerjee,
all the 50 questions regarding...
You're missing the point again. You're missing the point again. If I make accusations against you, your defense can't be, oh, I'm not going to come in front of the media and clarify. You're a public figure. You're answerable. Forget about the media. You're answerable to your constituents.
Yeah. Of course, the constituents have chosen her, they have elected her, and therefore when the ethics committee summons her, she is going to answer, and you are going to report what she has answered.
Okay,
we
sure,
hope so.
Absolutely.
Therefore, that she is not answering is not an argument.
Priyanka Tripurawal, so what Mr. Banerjee is saying is, it's one person's word against another. Mr. Hiranandani can say whatever he wants to say, but that's not the gospel truth. Mahua Moitra has her version of events. So why is the media, why is the BJP making it out to be such a big thing? Let the investigation happen, and let the investigation establish if she did indeed violate her oath as Member of Parliament.
Well, everything is falling before us only, and we are getting to see everything and witnessing each and every day. Now see, Ms. Moitra is not uttering anything. Rather, Mr. Anirban is very proud on the shameless behavior which she's carrying on and trying to show her confidence. But this is nothing. It is absolutely the fake morality which she was trying to show few days back. See, there are irrefutable evidences we shall not be able to deny. That is the reason she is quiet on that. Otherwise, she has never spoken anything about the login ID. Rather, she once said that it is not a crime, and her secretaries and everybody has the login ID. But yes, the login ID was, questions were asked across the Indian border. Now that is our concern. National security is our concern. Now Ms. Moitra has to come up with her clarifications, because there have been allegations leveled against her. She has to, bring out her point of view against the evidences which have been produced today before this committee. And after everything is looked into, if it is proved that she was wrong, then you have already said that what are the steps which this committee will take. Now, the clear thing is, Zaka, what I am trying to say is there are only two aspects involved in this. Firstly, the violation of ethics and immorality which is involved while sharing the login ID. That is what is about the ethics part.
Yep.
But the criminality part is when this login ID was shared in lieu of money. Now, this is where the aspect of money laundering is involved. This is where the aspect of, consideration of national security is involved, where it was compromised. Now, if this aspect is also involved, then it is definitely a crime for a parliamentarian to share that in lieu of
No,
money.
so that part, ma'am, as you're well aware, is an allegation that's made by the lawyer Jay Anant. And like I said, he is an interested party here because he is an estranged partner of Mahua Moitra. It is a matter of investigation. An investigating agency has to go into this and prove if at all she got quid pro quo. Now, having said that, Nalin Mehta, I'm interested in two things. One, how easy or difficult will this establishing of a quid pro quo be? Because clearly the Parliamentary Ethics Panel is not going to be able to find that out. And two, more importantly, Ms. Moitra's defense in all of this has been, you investigate every member of Parliament, you will find that every one of their login credentials have been compromised. And the point that she says that, you know, staff have the login credentials, I don't know where my staff is logging on and filing questions on my behalf from, and so on and so forth. Is that a convincing defense?
So, 2 or 3 points, Zaka. First and foremost, I don't think the ethics committee can rule on the quid pro quo, because that requires a very detailed forensic investigation and all kinds of things which the ethics committee will not be equipped to do. But they can certainly suspend a membership. They can certainly, if they find wrongdoing, they can certainly recommend a much larger criminal probe and so on. What this does do is that it muddies, on the charge of crony capitalism. I think the real thing about this whole controversy is the politics of it. It muddies the water on that. Those who throw stones at others can't afford to live in glass houses. It puts a question mark on the credibility of Mahua Moitra, and there's a lot of politics behind that. As far as this whole thing of a lot of PAs have password and so on, that may well be true. However, in this case, the charge is not that somebody else is operating it for you. It is that a businessman was operating it on your behalf. And if that turns out to be true, then that's a pretty serious damning allegation.
No, so Sanjeev Srivastava, and I'll come to that wall. Sanjeev Srivastava, I think the point that Nalin is making is this. If it is Ms. Moitra's contention, and she's said this on numerous occasions since this controversy went public, that the government, the BJP is targeting her because she's been asking tough questions on Adani. And her allegation against the government is very close to this corporate house. But in this case, she's given her login credentials allegedly to another corporate house. How is she any more different is the question that Nalin Mehta is asking. That if your whole contention against the government is they are promoting crony capitalists, then what was she doing? What were her login credentials doing in the hands of another capitalist?
So it's very difficult to disagree with Nalin or what you are saying or what anybody would say on this issue. So like Nalin said, that those who live in glass houses cannot throw stones on others. And that's a dictum which comes to haunt back many a crusaders time and again. So that's one of the key issues. But like we have all been saying, that this is something for the ethics committee to actually find out whether the login credentials were given to someone outside, whether they were used from outside the country. But the one big question, of course, all of us have also alluded to the politics of it. After all, why is Ms. Mitra being targeted? Because she's been a firebrand opponent. But at the end of it, pakda gaya chor hai. So if things can be pinned on her and if she's found guilty of it, she'll have to face the maximum punishment. Like Rahul Gandhi faced the maximum punishment of 2 years for a defamation case. So in this case also the maximum punishment, we can be assured of that. But the one point which nobody seems to be talking about, I don't want to defend Mitra at all. If she has done what she has done, she'll pay the price for it, I guess. And from the face of things till now, the case against her looks pretty strong because
what's the one thing that no one is talking about?
The prover,
you said there's one thing nobody is talking about. What is that?
So the one thing which nobody is talking about is that what were the questions which were asked? What did she ask? What were the questions which were raised? What was really wrong with those questions? I really don't know, but I'm curious, considering her background, considering her stand all through last few years, it is those questions which have raised the heckles of everyone.
No,
and
so,
that's why the
so
chickens
the
are coming home to
contention, the
roost,
contention
in
is,
a manner of speaking.
I'll let Priyanka Tibrewal take this, and then after that I'll go to Mr. Banerjee. The contention is that she, in her tenure in the last 4 years or so, 4+ years as MP, has asked 60 odd questions, of which 40 have a direct or indirect connection with Adani.
51.
The
51.
allegation is that many of these questions were asked by Mr. Darshan Hiranandani, who also heads a corporate group, and there are business rivalries. There are sectors and companies and areas in which the Adanis are also involved and the Hiranandanis are also involved, and therefore she was being used as an instrument by one corporate house against another. That's the charge against her. But Priyanka Tibrewal to respond. Yeah.
Yes, Zaka, you've already said what I wanted to say, and these questions are all on record. And I think the affidavit of Mr. Dehadrai has all these questions which are mentioned according to the date and time when these were asked. Now, only one such example was when the number of offices of this Hiranandani groups were being raided. More than 25 such places. The same time, Ms. Mahua Moitra is asking before the parliament that what about the Supreme Court? It has said that the PMLA Act, how far will we go through it in this act and all. So look at the timing. So that is what I'm saying, that interest of one particular person and group was being taken care of in lieu of money. So now these are the allegations and the acquisitions. Now she has to come and prove that these were not true.
The in lieu of money part is a matter of investigation. Like I said, either the CBI, ED or an investigating agency has to prove that this was done in lieu of money. But Mr.
It's
Banerjee,
not just Zaka.
Mr. Banerjee.
Just allow me to complete. Just allow me to complete.
Okay,
one more
10
point.
seconds. Yeah, 10
It's-
seconds.
Yes, it's not just about, in lieu of money and lot, but it was about personal interest where she staked the life of public in lakhs and lakhs. There are so many people for their household and for their living. They are depending on this one particular business group or house. So their lives was at stake because she's trying to disgrace one business community or one business group. For what? For her own personal interest. I am not speaking in favor of any business group.
Okay.
Because what she has done was, she had put so many public's life at stake.
Okay.
By doing this
so
in lieu of money.
let me ask Anirban Banerjee. One thing that stands out and it's glaring is her political party, the party that she represents, the TMC, has not said a word in her defense. They've basically said, look, this is an allegation against one particular member of parliament. It is up to that member of parliament to put out whatever she wants to put out in the public domain, basically, defend herself. If this had happened to any other member of the TMC, we would have seen the TMC sort of, hit the streets, have agitations. I mean, I remember the last time there were ED raids against Abhishek Banerjee. The whole TMC came out protesting in the streets of Kolkata. For such a party not to say a word about this MP and the grave charges against her, either one of these two things has to be true. Either the TMC also realizes that there is merit in these charges, or she's become a political liability even for her own party. That's why they're not defending her. Which of these is true?
No, I don't think that's entirely true, because we have seen Senior Minister Firhad Hakim, he has stated that this probably is taking place because of she being extremely vocal against the Modi and Adani links in the parliament. That has been the statement from the Senior Minister. Having said that, I don't think that really that anybody else needs to come in defense of Madam Moitra, because seeing her career as a parliamentarian, the way she can handle herself, I think she's single-handedly more than enough to handle the likes of Nishikant Dubey and the entire BJP Adani group. Therefore, let her defend herself before the ethics committee.
I Mr. Banerjee, I just gave you the example of when Abhishek Banerjee was summoned before the ED, the entire TMC was protesting. Somebody talked about Rahul Gandhi being disqualified. You saw how the Congress came out into the streets saying, this is the Modi government and its quote-unquote fascist attitude and so on and so forth. Here you have the Modi government going after one of your own and you are not saying a word. Does that not seem odd to you?
No, I said the senior minister Firhad Hakim has stated. I told you what.
No, but neither has the chief minister said a word, nor has her heir apparent said a word. I mean, the important people in this party have not said a word about this.
if you are telling me that Firhad Hakim is an unimportant person, then I think you're getting your facts wrong.
Certainly not more important than the Chief Minister or Abhishek Banerjee for that matter. But anyway,
Zaka TMC has not defended because they know there are irrefutable
Can I please complete? Can I please complete?
And because there is merit in
can
the
I please complete?
let him finish. Yeah, let him finish. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I asked him. Either there is merit in these allegations, or she's become a liability for her own party. One of these has to be true. Mr. Banerjee.
No, neither of them are true. I'll tell you, neither of them are true. Regarding the propriety, morality and principles part in the parliament, let me remind you, in 2005, when 11 MPs were suspended for almost the same kind of allegations, 6 of them were BJP MPs, right? And when parliament voted on this question, the BJP parliamentarian team staged a walkout. They did not vote in this issue, and Mr. Lalkrishna Advani, then one of the tallest leaders of the BJP, actually stated that this is more of an act of stupidity rather than criminality or corruption.
No, but ultimately all those 11 got suspended for the remainder of that term.
Of course, they were suspended.
They got suspended.
Of course, they were suspended.
They couldn't exercise any of their position or privileges as MPs.
No, that is true. That
for
is
the
true.
remainder of that entire, I think it was the 14th or 15th
I'm just saying what the BJP stance was.
But anyway, I'll get Nalin and Sanjeev for the final word. Nalin, so the point is, how does this story now move forward? Now, one thing is, and I think it's a fairly easy thing to find out, if you are Nalin Mehta, you're talking to me from a location here in Delhi, and somebody is accessing your email ID sitting in Dubai, then I know at this very same time, then I know it's not you. Somebody else is accessing it on your behalf, and that's a very easy thing to find out, right? You have IP addresses. That's the job of the NIC. That's a fairly easy thing to find out and prove. Yeah. The more difficult thing would be if, as Mr. Jay Anant has alleged, that she was getting luxury bags in lieu of these questions, or she was getting, expensive perfumes and whatever else, gifts in kind, as it were, in lieu of these questions. Now, that is not something you can easily prove, because she can say that, where is the bill for this? What is the document that says that this particular bag was given to me because, this question was asked on my behalf? How do you prove that?
No, absolutely. I mean, the IP addresses can easily be tracked. Ashwin Vaishnav, the IT minister, has already talked about that. The NIC is looking into it. The quid pro quo, far more difficult to make, especially even if there were payments, were they directly linked to this and so on. I mean, that is a much more tricky thing. But I think what is much more interesting to watch, because this will then go to the investigating agencies and this will take its own time. The interesting thing to watch is how the political class are responding to this. And you mentioned the Trinamool Congress. I don't see any other major opposition party in the India alliance also defending Mahua Moitra at this point of time. And that to me is interesting at this point of time, because it looks like she's been hung out to dry.
Okay, she's been hung out to dry. So Sanjay Srivastava, I'll give you the final word. We've got 6 months, less than 6 months to go for the Lok Sabha election. If she doesn't manage to clear her name between now and the Lok Sabha election, do you see a party like the TMC, renominating her, giving her a ticket again to fight from Krishnanagar? Or she's politically toast?
I really don't know the answer, but what we know definitely, Zaka, is that Mahua Moitra was always a little bit too hot for TMC leadership to handle at times. So there was this off and on kind of relationship, because she could really fly too high at times, take things, raise the ante too much for the party leadership's liking at time. Or that's what the impression one gathered by reading about her and the relationship she had with TMC at times. But the biggest message really out of all of this is, I think she is in a difficult spot. Frankly, for a parliamentarian, for the nature of her debates and the kind of firebrand leader she is, one feels a little sad about it. But the biggest message is that if you want to take on this government on any issue, anywhere, then you yourself have to be absolutely squeaky clean. Yeah. Otherwise, you will be fixed.
Yeah, make sure that you don't have any skeletons in your cupboard before you start looking for skeletons in other people's cupboards. That you can
vandalize the parliamentarian discipline.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to all our guests. We'll see how this story plays out, not just for Mahua Moitra, but also, I guess, this will set a template when it comes to this whole question of whether MPs are in this sordid business of selling their login credentials, getting into corporate rivalries, becoming some kind of an instrument, if you will, allegedly, for one corporate house to settle scores with another. So irrespective of which way the verdict on this case will go, and it's going to take a long time, it's not just the ethics panel. If they feel that there is prima facie criminality involved, they can refer this to an investigating agency. So this is not going to get settled in the next few months. But as and when a conclusion is reached in this case, either way, if she's guilty or if she's innocent, it will set a template for MPs and their behavior, particularly when it comes to something as sacrosanct, in my view, the trust between the electors, the voters who elected a member of parliament, and the responsibility that those voters have bestowed upon that member of parliament. There can't be a breach in that. There should not be a breach in that. All right, quick break. When we come back on the other side, 8 Indian Navy veterans have been sentenced to death by a court in Qatar on charges of spying for Israel. The MEA has said it will take up this matter with the Qatar government. What can India do to secure their safe return? That right after this quick break.
Hello, Moto.
तो छत्तीसगढ़ के हिसाब से तो बड़ा यहाँ का चुनाव माहौल समझ में नहीं आ रहा है ना। कि वैसे तो भूपेश बघेल का पर गाँव वाले लोग से सुनते हैं ना, तो जितने भी खेती किसानी वाले हैं वो लोग ज़्यादा महत्व उनको दे रहे हैं, है ना, भूपेश बघेल को। अब आगे देखो क्या रिजल्ट आता है इसका, है ना। और वैसे रमन सिंह भी अपने हिसाब से अपने पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री रह चुके हैं 3 बार। तो यहाँ की जो विशेषता ज़्यादा है उसके ऊपर रुझान ज़्यादा जा रहा है रमन सिंह। हाँ,
रमन सिंह जी के रहते राजनांदगांव में तो काफी कुछ बदला होगा क्योंकि ये उनका गृह क्षेत्र है। छत्तीसगढ़ में उनके रहते क्या बदला और भूपेश बघेल के आने से क्या फर्क है?
मैडम जी, जैसे बात रही कांग्रेस और बीजेपी, ये अपने अपने स्तर पे काम करते हैं, उसका तो कोई ये नहीं रहा। लेकिन एक्चुअल में राजनांदगांव की किस्मत शुरू से खराब रही। अब मैं बताना चाहूँगा, इससे पहले भी बीते हुए 5 साल में जो चुनाव हुए, तो हमारे रमन सिंह जी जो CM रह चुके हैं, वो भी कवर्धा जिले से विधानसभा क्षेत्र ये रहा। उस समय थी करुणा शुक्ला जी जो कांग्रेस से नेतृत्व करी थी, वो भी बाहर की थी। इस बार भी वही मौका फिर से दोहराया गया। रमन सिंह जी जो है कवर्धा से है और अभी फिर रायपुर के एक व्यक्ति को लाके, गिरीश देवांगन जी को लाके फिर कांग्रेस ने फिर खड़े कर दी। तो हम क्षेत्रीय लोग कहाँ जाएंगे? हमारे को अगर किसी विधायक से मिलना है तो रायपुर जाना पड़ेगा और कवर्धा जाना पड़ेगा। इसमें राजनांदगांव का कोई कुछ नहीं रहा। और विगत दिनों पर यहाँ खेल कूद और व्यवसाय, इससे जुड़ा हुआ संबंध ही का बस काम आया। बाकी ऐसा किसी चीज़ से, जैसे 15 साल के विकास में 15 साल के जो मुख्यमंत्री पद में रहे, तो उन्होंने मतलब एक तो फैक्ट्री तक राजनांदगांव में नहीं लगाई है। और रहा सवाल भूपेश बघेल जी का, तो पिछले 5 साल में अभी जो चुनावी कार्यक्रम था तो आए थे यहाँ, उसके पहले कुछ नहीं
आता ही नहीं। अच्छा, जब आप लोग वोट देने जाते हैं चुनाव में, तो क्या नेता का चेहरा देख के देते हैं या कोई मुद्दा सोच के देते हैं?
नहीं मैडम, ऐसा नहीं है। वो क्या है, आदमी देख के देना पड़ता है। क्या जो काम किए हुए है ना। रमन सिंह के राज में बहुत काम हुए थे।
जैसे 1-2 काम बताइए।
बहुत से गरीबों को मशीन वगैरह, साइकिल वगैरह देना, और गरीबों को कई पैसे मिले हैं, है ना।
और बघेल सरकार में क्या नहीं हुआ जो आपको उम्मीद थी होगा और नहीं हुआ?
वो कुछ नहीं मैडम, अब क्या बोले जाए उसके में, उतना नहीं हुआ काम, है ना।
ऑलराइट, सो एटलीस्ट इन दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे? कैसे चुनाव में हो रहा है, क्या मुद्दे हैं यहाँ के लोगों के? कुछ ऐसा स्पेसिफिक है जैसे महंगाई हो गया, बेरोजगारी हो गया, या डेवलपमेंट?
महंगाई और बघेल जी ने महंगाई को और बढ़ावा दिया है। रमन सरकार आएगी तो उस हिसाब से उनको मुख्यमंत्री के पद में चुना जाएगा।
So at least in his home turf, Raman Singh, it seems, has managed to gain support for his candidature. But the rest of Chhattisgarh, people here are unsure as to how rest of Chhattisgarh is really voting. बताइए पूर्वा, वोट देने जब जाएंगी तो नेता का चेहरा देख के वोट देंगी या आपके कुछ मुद्दे हैं जो सोच कर आप वोट देंगी?
नहीं, नेता का चेहरा देख के तो बिल्कुल नहीं देंगे।
नहीं देंगे तो क्या?
Welcome back. A court in Qatar has convicted and sentenced 8 former officers of the Indian Navy to death on charges of spying on behalf of Israel. Now, reports suggest that these 8 veterans were working for a private company in Qatar that provided training to the Qatar military and haven't been in detention since August of last year. The Ministry of External Affairs has responded to the verdict, saying it will take up the matter with the Qatari authorities and it will continue to provide consular as well as legal assistance. The ministry is also in touch with family members of the Navy veterans and is assuring them that they are on this case. So let's bring you up to speed with a timeline of this case, because very little is known, at least authentically, about what exactly happened with these 8 veterans. What is it that they are alleged to have done in Qatar, and what is it that India can now do to help secure their release? Now, the death penalty has been given for 8 veterans in this case in August of 2022. That's when it came to light. These ex-naval officers were arrested. They were accused of spying for Israel. September of 2022, their bail plea was rejected by a lower court in Qatar, citing, and I quote from that lower court order, damning electronic evidence. In March to June of 2023, that is this year, the trial happened. The veterans pleaded innocence over 2 trials that happened in the lower court. In October of 2023, just earlier this month, the Indian ambassador to Qatar met these naval veterans. I think that was the first time the ambassador had got consular access to these veterans. On the 26th, which is today, we had word that a lower court in Qatar has sentenced to death these 8 Indian Navy veterans. But we're getting a piece of breaking news in connection with this story, after which I'll go to our guest. It's a CNN News 18 exclusive. Top government sources have spoken to CNN News 18 in the aftermath of today's verdict in Qatar. They've told CNN News 18 that this ruling has essentially come from a lower court. It now needs to be confirmed. It needs to be ratified by a constitutional court, so it has to go before appellate courts. Top government sources are confident that they will be going in for an appeal in this case, in an appellate or a higher court, and will place whatever evidence they have in support of the veterans and their character and good conduct. These government sources have also told CNN News 18 they are hoping that basis that evidence, a higher court will mitigate the punishment that's been meted out to the Navy veterans. Sources say that the government will also request the Qatari authorities through back channel diplomacy and will provide all legal aid required by these Navy veterans. So clearly, this is a case that has come like a bit of a bolt from the blue, if you will, at least today's verdict of a death sentence, and that to 8 former Indian Navy officials. It's a case that India has been trying to raise and has been raising with the Qatari authorities, but without much success in terms of pushing the case of these 8 Indian Navy veterans. Joining me now is Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, he's former Secretary of the Ministry of External Affairs. Bobby Naqvi is former editor with the Gulf News. Ambassador Chakravarti, let me start with you first. Like I said, very little is known in terms of authentic information as to what is it that these Navy veterans are alleged to have done in Qatar. But Qatar claims it was a case of espionage and that the lower court has looked into the evidence against them. The depositions have been recorded and the court has come to the conclusion and they have convinced that they were involved in espionage on behalf of Israel, and they've now sentenced them to death. What is it the government of India can do to try and mitigate the situation?
Well, it seems to me as an observer that it's a mystery wrapped up in an enigma, because no evidence has been put forward. Electronics evidence has been quoted, and in the judicial system in Qatar is not the same as in a democratic country. and it's opaque, it's non-transparent, and so we really don't know what exactly is the problem. After all, they were recruited by a Qatari company which was very close to the government and was providing, services like training, etc., to the Qatari Navy. Now, suddenly, this has happened. Who provided the electronic intelligence? There were competing, corporate interests there. Were there others who were not happy with the Indians being there providing this thing? And I don't want to name any country, but you will have to guess, which country I'm talking about, who feel that India should, India, who have this rivalry and hostility towards India. So there are a lot of questions here. And despite all the goodwill and other, we have a good relationship with Qatar, $15 billion of trade and $13 billion that Qatari imports, and it's a huge gap. And all these things about 8 lakh Indians working there. So there is a long-standing relationship. So how suddenly this has happened is quite a mystery, actually.
So let me ask Bobby Naqvi, while India has had, particularly in the last decade or so, very good ties with some of the Gulf Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. With Qatar, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. We saw this during the Nupur Sharma episode where Qatar sort of seemingly took the lead and was offended by what she said, and the High Commissioner was summoned in and a demarche was issued. We've also seen from time to time how Qatar has backed Pakistan and the Pakistani position when it comes to Kashmir. It's also taken, slightly uncomfortable sort of stands against India, even within the OIC when it comes to such matters. So how does India navigate this tricky sort of minefield? Because at the end of the day, the lives of 8 Indian Navy veterans is hanging in the balance, literally.
You're right, Zaka. In the last, especially since 2014, we have seen that the relationship between India and many Gulf countries, especially Saudi Arabia, UAE, have been elevated to the strategic level, and also with Oman and Bahrain. Qatar is the only country where the relationship have not progressed so well. I mean, still, you have a very strong relationship. You have a $15 billion trade. India is one of the major trade partners, I think 4th largest in terms of imports, Qatari exports. So the relationship is there. Now, what are the options available before India, how they can pursue this case legally? I think if you have to read the statement of MEA, which was issued today after the verdict, it says that, India is going to pursue all legal means. Now, that means that, from court of first instance, it has to go to court of appeals, and from court of appeals, it has to go to court of cassation. Now, for all cases of death sentence, the Emir of Qatar has the powers to actually repeal the sentence. But then I think we have to talk about that when you reach that stage. Meanwhile, what you can do, what the Indian authorities can do. Obviously, we can ask for more consular access, more frequent accesses. I believe that now the 8 Indian Navy personnel, former Navy personnel, they are, I think, they are kept in cells. Previously, they were kept in solitary confinement. So situation is slightly better, but I'm sure the things can improve. Now we have the since August, I think we have the new ambassador Vipulji. I think he has got fantastic experience in the Gulf. He was previously in Dubai, and before that he was after that he was Joint Secretary Middle East.
Okay.
So he's a fine diplomat. Let's see how and what kind of, I mean, the relationship exists, no doubt about it. But then because the way this whole story has panned out, the information is sketchy. The response also from the Indian authorities has been very guarded. The statement of the foreign secretary spokesperson, I think earlier statement was that we cannot force the Qatari authorities to actually intervene in this case. This case is sub judice, so
Okay.
they cannot leverage the relationship, to get some kind of relief for these 8 Indian detainees.
So Pinak
Now,
Ranjan Chakravarti. So
Jacob, one more point I would like to make.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, none of the Qatari media has reported this verdict. I mean, Al Jazeera's last report was in May. The other newspapers in Qatar, they have not reported it. In the Gulf, whichever media outlets they have reported this story are quoting ANI. So
Okay.
they picked up the ANI story. I mean, it's very surprising why information hasn't come from the Qatari authorities.
So that's precisely what I do want to ask Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti as we get a closing comment. The opacity of the legal process, I think twice in the last year is what we've got consular access, and ultimately now, like I said, the lives of these 8 former veterans is hanging in the balance. The whole opaque nature of the judicial process that they have undergone, and now even like Bobby Naqvi said, the news of this death sentence. How does India deal with that? You can let's say if this were happening in a Western democracy, you have instruments of leverage. But in this case, are we to just wait till the legal process concludes, it goes to the appellate court and then the final court, and only then can any leverage, if at all India has leverage with Qatar, be exercised, and with the ruling establishment in Qatar be exercised?
Yes, I think that is the position, because it is not a democracy. It's an authoritarian, family-ruled Gulf sheikhdom, call it what you like, monarchy. And there, I don't think transparency works a lot, or democracy works the way we understand it. So I think this is all tied up with the kind of personal decisions and political decisions influenced by certain quarters or what call it. I think it's a. As I said, it's such opaque, the opaqueness of the system, because this is very personalized governance there. There are, family-ruled, princess and all those things, emirs, as they call it, and they rule according to their, to their understanding of politics and geopolitics. And they think that, and of course, they have the money. Let us forget that they are one of the richest, probably the richest country in the world in per capita GNP.
So I'm really sorry we're running out of time, but I think that last point that you made about getting mired in geopolitics, and I think that is the fear of a lot of Indians, as well as, of course, the family members of these 8 veterans, that oftentimes on many geopolitical issues, including the recent Israel-Hamas war that is going on, the position that Qatar has taken seems to be very extreme from what the position that India has taken or India's friends and partners have taken. And therefore, let this not be an episode in geopolitical wrangling between India and Qatar. We'll see how this story plays out. For the meanwhile, thank you very much for tuning in. I'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. Good night.
Presented by. आपने अभी अभी पढ़ाई पूरी की होगी।
हाँ।
तो क्या आपके क्या मुद्दे होंगे जिसको सोच के आपने कुछ सोचा है, क्या सोच के?
नहीं अभी तक तो कुछ नहीं सोचा है।
दोस्तों में बातचीत नहीं हो रही, पहली बार वोटर दे रहे?
नहीं।
अच्छा, आप बताइए मुद्दे क्या होंगे आपके?
अभी तो सोचा नहीं है।
नौकरी, क्या आप लोग सोचते हैं कि नौकरी आगे करनी है?
हाँ करनी है, पर अभी उतना पढ़ाई पूरी नहीं हुई है, तो जब तक के
क्या करती हैं?
मैं BSc कर रही हूँ।
तो BSc की पढ़ाई, यहाँ पे हायर एजुकेशन का सिस्टम अच्छा है? राजनांदगांव में कॉलेजेस, यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं अच्छी?
हाँ है ना, अच्छी है।
अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं। हाँ। ओके, आपने नौकरी के बारे में आगे सोचा है? क्या करना चाहती हैं आगे पढ़ाई के बाद? पढ़ाई के बाद क्या करना चाहती है, कुछ सोचा है? हाँ। क्या करना चाहती है?
जॉब करेंगे।
किस टाइप की जॉब, सरकारी या प्राइवेट?
जो भी सुटेबल लगे।
तो यहाँ प्राइवेट जॉब्स का मार्केट है? राजनांदगांव में जो लड़के लड़कियाँ पढ़ लेते हैं, ग्रेजुएशन कर लेते हैं, प्राइवेट नौकरियाँ मिल जाती है?
हाँ मिल जाती है, मतलब कंप्यूटर ऑपरेटर, लाइक बहुत सारा जॉब है यहाँ। बहुत
जॉब है।
हाँ।
तो गवर्नमेंट जॉब के लिए ऐसी कोई आप लोगों को दिक्कत नहीं है? क्योंकि सरकारी नौकरी के लिए बहुत सारे लड़के कहते हैं कि हमको सरकारी नौकरी चाहिए। आपके साथ ऐसा नहीं
है।
ओके। और बाकी कोई और इशू, महिला सुरक्षा, आप लोग सिक्योर फील करती हैं खुद से स्कूटी चलाती हैं तो?
हाँ बिल्कुल।
सिक्योरिटी वो है, आप भी सिक्योर
हाँ,
फील करती हैं? बिल्कुल। ओके। आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगी मैडम, महंगाई के बारे में, गैस सिलेंडर के दाम के बारे में?
क्या कहेंगे मैडम, हमें तो आप गैस दिया ही नहीं है। मोदी सरकार दूंगा करके कह लिया, धर के फोटो खिंचा लिया, हमें दिया ही नहीं है। पंचायत में बुला के फोटो खिंचा लिया, मकान के नाम भी आया, फिर भी इस मकान के हमको पैसा नहीं मिल रहा है। बार बार घुमाते, क्या करें, हम परेशान हैं। हम ओकरे वजह से हमारा तबीयत खराब हो रहा है।
तो जब वोट देंगी तो ये सब सोच के वोट देंगी?
हाँ, सोच के वोट देंगे ना, हमें नहीं देता, हम क्यों देंगे उसे वोट?
History has shown that the road to Raipur often goes through Bastar. Even in the last assembly election, the clean sweep in Bastar's 12th seat had a huge role to play in the landslide victory that Bhupesh Baghel registered in the Chhattisgarh assembly. This assembly elections, BJP is trying to hard sell its dream of Naxal-free, secure Chhattisgarh to woo the tribals. Bhupesh Baghel, on his part, is promising them more welfare measures, more direct benefit transfers. Who will really manage to woo them finally will be known on 3rd of December. But it's clear to both sides that if Bastar and Chhattisgarh comes out to vote without fear or favour, that'll be the biggest victory. One of the VIP constituencies going to polls this time is Rajnandgaon, the home turf of Raman Singh. Even though as an MLA he has chosen Kavardha, the people of this area think that R in Rajnandgaon actually stands for Dr. Raman. So what are the issues in this VIP constituency? What are the people thinking? How much development has really happened in the 15 years that Dr. Raman Singh was in power? And did Rajnandgaon suffer after Bhupesh Baghel took the Chief Minister's chair? Let's speak to people in this constituency. What's the mood like in Raman Singh's constituency in Rajnandgaon market? A group of people here with us. कैसा है माहौल है, क्या मुद्दा है?
मैडम, डॉक्टर साहब जो है ना, वो तो विधायक ही हैं और
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Day 20, no ground offensive yet. Every day Israel says